U-GeekTV.
Deadpool and Wolverine is dropped, and the only thing that I could think of as I'm coming out of the theater is that's what a real multiverse of madness looks like. Fuck you, Doctor Strange. Let's get into it.
I know I turn everything into a joke, but I care. I want to use that for something important. I waited a long time for this team up.
Welcome back to U-GeekTV. I'm your host, Jarius, Unapologetic Geek, and today we are doing the unapologetic review of the hotly anticipated, long-awaited Deadpool sequel entitled Deadpool and Wolverine. And like usual, we're going to do the spoiler-free review on the front end, and on the back end, pause, we're going to do the spoiler-filled review. This is going to be a very in-depth spoiler review because a lot of shit happens in this film, and I got to talk about it. So without further ado, let's go spoiler-free. Now, as you expect, this movie is hilarious. Ryan Reynolds pulled no punches in his performance as Deadpool. And what's funny is Wolverine is kind of funny playing off of Deadpool as a straight man. It all kind of comes together, but comedically, this film is top notch. Yeah, there are your juvenile butt jokes and penile jokes and whatever the case may be, but it's still pretty funny, and I appreciate Ryan Reynolds' commitment to this character and really everybody's commitment to the story as a whole. This film is also filled to the brim with cameos. I made or took a shot at Multiverse of Madness, and I'm going to do it again. The cameos here are actually not just fan service, but they feel like they were purposely well thought of and executed. Like every cameo, even though you can, kind of roll your eyes if you want to at some of them and like, oh, this is just some fan service shit. Well, no, it's fan service with a purpose. Like the cameos fit the story well, and that's something else that I appreciate because in Multiverse of Madness, it was just for a cheap pop, and I hate cheap pops. Yeah. Some of the cameos also feel like they may be hinting at Marvel's future, but you'll have to stay around for the spoiler review for me to even get into that. I was also a little bit surprised at the amount of heart found in this movie. I know in the previous two Deadpool movies, they did have some heartfelt moments, but here it's kind of full circle. They go a little bit of on the extra mile when it comes to the heartfelt stuff, especially when it comes to Deadpool. Logan also has a well thought out, heartfelt story to continue on with the Wolverine legacy without damaging the legacy left behind in Logan. On the flip side of this, the core story, like the actual plot and how we get to where we are in terms of Deadpool and the villain Cassandra and the other villain, Mr. Paradox in the film, I didn't like that as much. Like the core story and the execution with all the other characters that kind of feel separate at times. The writing of the main plot is just not all that strong to me, and that was kind of a drawback for me. Speaking of Cassandra Nova is played by Emma Corrin, and she does an excellent job with what she's given. She's so creepy. Like there's the way her powers are conveyed on screen. It's some unsettling shit. I thought about it. I actually had a nightmare about it, and it's really unsettling. I can't get into it here because, of course, it's a spoiler-free review. But when you see it, it's if you, especially if you have like a specific kind of phobia, you might want to stay away from this. You might want to do like a Google search to see if this is okay. But if you're not a fan of finger stuff, steer clear, please. But yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine, very good time. I feel like if you've kept up with more than just the MCU movies, you're going to have a better time with this. If you want to learn more about that and you haven't seen the film yet, go and check it out. Come back because I'm definitely going to talk about it on the spoiler side. But yeah, it's a really good time, and it really commits to like comic book fans, MCU fans, and Fox fans as well. All of that converges into one film. And man, it's well worth the watch. So with that being said, let's get to my verdict. Deadpool and Wolverine gets an unapologetically legit rating that is a 4 out of 5. Very good time. Go and check it out. You won't be sorry. Now, with all that out of the way, it's time to get into some spoilers. And oh my God, we have so much to get into. I want to start by saying this film has an incredible soundtrack. It is led by NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye. It involves Deadpool taking Logan's decayed remains and using the adamantium to defeat soldiers from the TVA. And it's all to the sound of Bye 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 by NSYNC. This is one of the best intros to a movie I've ever seen. But the part that honestly is keeping me up at night right now is if that was really Ryan Reynolds doing those dance moves, because he's doing NSYNC's full choreography, the full choreography in that intro. He hitting that shit. And part of me really feels like there's no way Ryan Reynolds would allow anybody else to put that suit on and do it. I feel like it was Ryan. Ryan, please come out and let us know. But in my heart and in my mind, I'm saying it was Ryan Reynolds that did this. So also, the usage of Like a Prayer by Madonna is tip top form. The way they use it in the finale of the film, which I may talk about a little bit later, it's beautiful. Like the song has always been dope to me, but it comes off differently now. The way it was used to kind of bind that friendship between Wolverine and Deadpool. Now we're about to get into the meaty shit. Wait, pause. Another pause. Sorry. Now we're about to get into the meat of the spoilers here. Where the hell did Wesley Snipes come from? Like, I've seen Wesley, for the most part, talk shit on Mahershala Ali and the failures of the new Blade that's honestly has become a joke on the internet. That's what I've seen from him. Wesley shows up in this film as the OG Blade in all his glory. I mean, he's a little bit smaller now, but he's older, and honestly, I'm not going to get on here and just talk about, hey, man, Wesley don't look the way he used to. I mean, he's over fucking 50 years old. He's not going to look the same. However, he's Blade, and he's damn good at what he does. And it was mind blowing. When he comes into the frame, I literally yelled out loud in a theater full of people who also yelled out loud. And then there was a minor but sustained applause that followed it. By the way, the audience experience for this film is top notch. It was nothing like seeing it opening night with a bunch of other geeks who just know how precious these characters are and how much they mean to different people. And so we were all just in nirvana of sorts when we were watching it. I'm gonna have to watch this film again when it's released to actually hear the shit that was happening. Where we were all giving rounds of applause and laughing and all of that. But yeah, Blade comes out and his shit talking Blade. There's a moment where he tells Deadpool he doesn't like him, and Ryan Reynolds, and I'm saying Ryan Reynolds, not Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds responds and he says, "You never did," which that goes back to the beef that they had during the filming of Blade Trinity. So that was pretty funny. But Blade says some things in here, principle of which is there's only going to be one Blade at one point. And I want to talk about this because Marvel, what are we doing here? Like, if I'm Mahershala Ali and I see Deadpool and Wolverine, and he's seen it by now. He's absolutely seen it by now. Like, somebody has sent him a clip or tagged him on Twitter or wherever and shown him they talking shit about you, Mahershala, because that's how people do. He's been trying to get Blade off the ground. There's been issues with writing. Kevin Feige has kind of danced around why the film hasn't even gone into production after being announced in 2019. There's an uncertain future when it comes to the Blade film with Mahershala Ali. And not long ago, I saw where, again, Wesley kind of was talking shit like, Y'all think it was easy just replacing me, and you all are in basically production hell with it. And now he comes out. It's crazy that that movie was announced in 2019. The last time Wesley Snipes was Blade was like maybe 2005, 2006, something around that area. He got back on screen as Blade before we saw Mahershala Ali on screen as Blade. Like, really think about that. And so that leads me to my biggest question. Where does Blade go from here? I'm quite certain he's going to be in Secret Wars. If you know anything about the Secret Wars story, it involves like a multiversal conflict where different versions of beloved characters kind of come together and fight in this pretty much epic god tournament of some sorts. It's I'm pretty sure they're going to tone it down from that, but that's what it comes out to be. Where does Blade fit in this? And is there room for two Blades now? Because if you're still going to proceed with the Mahershala Ali part of it, are you just going to say he can't be in Secret Wars and his movie doesn't get off until 2020, when the fuck ever? And at that point, he's Blade? Because at this point, the fans want Wesley now. This puts Mahershala Ali in a precarious position. Do I still want to come out and take on this role after basically Wesley took it back? And that's what is going to be in the hearts and minds of fans for right now. It's also been a desire for a lot of fans for him to just come back and reprise the role. Do I really want to deal with that backlash that comes from that? Or does Marvel make another Blade movie with Wesley Snipes and do a proper send off? Those are the things that are kind of just up in the air to me. I could be overblowing this. You know, maybe they have this plan. Maybe this was all discussed with Mahershala Ali and Wesley Snipes, and maybe he was just taking his jabs as a means to do a little bit of pre-movie promotion. But I tell you what, the footage of the aftermath of the Deadpool and Wolverine screening at San Diego Comic Con was leaked. They brought Not only did they bring out Wesley Snipes, they brought him out last because Jennifer Garner is back in here as Elektra. Channing Tatum is in this film as Gambit, which I'm going to definitely talk about that. And another person I'm going to talk about, Chris Evans, is in here as Johnny Storm. Not Steve Rogers, but Johnny Storm. Also going to talk about that. They bring Wesley Snipes out last. And Ryan Reynolds goes over and he hugs Wesley tight in front of everybody. That to me sounds like you're saying, look, he's back for more than just this film. We're not going to spoil anything, but at the same time, if he is truly back for more than just this film, what does this mean for Mahershala Ali? I wouldn't be surprised if we get an announcement coming soon about what capacity Wesley will be serving. I'm also in a place where I wouldn't be surprised if Mahershala Ali say, fuck off, and just leave the project entirely. Now, as I mentioned, there are cameos, cameos in surplus here, or excess surplus. Anyways, there are cameos all around. And I'm just going to go down with a few of them. I may not get to all of them, but I'm going to get to the ones that really stood out to me. First of all, Jennifer Garner coming back as Elektra. That was a huge surprise. The way it's introduced, she comes out right before Blade. And I thought that was just, I knew it felt like the tip of the iceberg, but I did not expect to get Blade like right after that. And she goes right back into that role very well. Elektra was always kind of a badass, even though she was in films that really weren't that great. But yeah, she's here. Another person who's here is Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. The way this is done is masterful because they lead you. They do a good job of kind of pulling you in and leading you to believe that he's Rogers. But as I'm watching, I'm like, okay, something kind of seems off. And then he stands next to Deadpool, and Deadpool is so excited because at the beginning of this film, Deadpool is interviewing to be an Avenger. He gets turned down. But I love the respect that Captain America has. Anytime Captain America is mentioned in a movie or a film that's not a Captain America movie, it's always with some sort of reverence, and that continues here. And when he sees him, he's freaking out, he's having a good time. And then then Johnny curses. And Deadpool is like, oh shit, Captain America is about to talk shit. He doesn't say that verbatim, but he says something along those lines. And he's cussing. And then he kind of sees an opportunity for Captain America to say, Avengers Assemble. He thinks he's going to do it, and he's just hyped up, and he's, freaking out in front of Logan. And then Johnny says, flame on. I saw it coming because of the way he was acting. And I had, of course, I had the knowledge that this was Johnny Storm. My wife didn't see it coming at all. But when he does the flame on, the whole theater was just laughing and just tripping out. But we also kind of clapped because, like, it's Johnny Storm, and it's Chris Evans is Johnny Storm, a role he said he would just never come back to. Where here it is, and it's funny, but it's also epic in a way. And then he fights Pyro, and somehow Pyro wins. That would never fucking happen in a comic book, right? But a great moment comes with Johnny Storm and Cassandra. Johnny is in prison, and he knows all about Cassandra. They're in this land of, like, a land of rejects, which makes this super funny. And it's about rejected ideas, essentially rejected ideas from Fox, and maybe some from Marvel. But somehow the ideas that made it, like Electro and Blade, they're also trapped here. So it's just a funny concept, and it's very fourth wallish, very meta. And so Johnny is talking to Cassandra, and if I'm not mistaken, Cassandra was supposed to appear in one of those X-Men sequels that never made it out. So it's funny that she's in here as a big bad as well. And Deadpool starts telling Cassandra all this shit that Johnny Storm was talking, and Johnny is kind of freaking out. Like, I never said that. And it's phrases that you would think that, like, Deadpool really came up with and would say. And Cassandra rips his skin off and kills him. Funny thing is, in the post-credit scenes, the only post-credit scene in this film, you find out that Johnny actually said all this shit, and Deadpool kind of egged him on. So that was hilarious. It's one of the funniest cameos found throughout the film, and it only served for laughs, and that's absolutely fine. Next cameo that's really worth diving into, and this was the second biggest one for me besides Blade, is Channing Tatum, who finally fulfilled his, I'm not going to say lifelong or career long dream, but one of his dreams of playing Gambit. And what's funny is he criticized, I think it's Taylor Kilch, or yeah, I think it's Taylor Kilch. That's how you pronounce his last name. He criticized his performance in Wolverine and Wolverine Origins, not Wolverine and Deadpool, shit, Wolverine Origins, because he didn't have, like, the Cajun accent, and Channing Tatum has notably spoken out about being actually Cajun or whatever. And he wanted to play Gambit. It got greenlit and then revoked with, I believe, with Disney's acquisition of Marvel is when they finally killed that movie off. And so he was bummed out about it. He's spoken about this many times. He actually got to do it. So Channing Tatum is definitely a fan of Gambit, but notably the 90s cartoon Gambit. And he does that Creole accent to perfection in here. Like, you're going to hear people try and come out and say it was trash. I don't want to hear this shit. That, in terms of how Gambit spoke on the 90s cartoon, Channing Tatum nails that. And it's hilarious because Deadpool's only concern is that he can't understand anything that Gambit is saying. And they play this up several times. Like, at one point, Deadpool asked Gambit, "Is your dialect coach one of the minions?" I feel like I'm I'm missing important plot details because I can't understand what the fuck you saying. And those two together are really funny. Now, one thing that I can say is I always rejected the idea of Channing Tatum being a comic accurate, cartoon accurate Gambit. I take that back. He proved me wrong. I would like to see him in another film, but I do not want to see a full movie of that. That's a bridge too far for me. But a film where he comes, and I believe he's going to come back for Secret Wars because this movie kind of leaves off. Um, it looks like they're dead, but you don't see Blade, Elektra, and Gambit die. And also, X-23 was with them when they supposedly met their end, but she's also at the end of the film, so I feel like they're alive. I feel like Gambit is going to return again in Secret Wars, and he should just have guest spots. They shouldn't make this a full film. However, I truly did enjoy Gambit being portrayed by Channing Tatum. I did not have that on my bingo card entering into this film, but I came out of it a fan. So Daphne King has returned as X-23 in here, and that was special because we haven't seen X-23, of course, since Logan. I know Daphne King has been in other stuff, but I haven't seen her as X-23. Actually, I don't think I've seen anything else she's been in, and if I have, I didn't realize that was her. But it was cool having her back. She kind of gets this version of Logan into recognizing that he's a good guy despite his failures in his universe as Wolverine. He has the heart and the heroics needed to complete the mission, and I feel like her role in here, it pushed forward Wolverine's story in a pretty meaningful and significant way. But yeah, she rounds out the cameos, like the top cameos from this film. So now I'm going to get into just the craziness and the foolishness and why I say this is a real multiverse of madness endeavor. For this portion, I'm just going to read off this shit because I can't act like I'm going to just sit up here and remember all of these. So, here are the other cameos from this film. And of course, if you're here, more than likely you've already seen the movies. You're here for the spoilers. So, yeah, y'all not getting no spoiler warning, but hopefully I can offer a little bit more context around what it was we saw. They gave us Age of Apocalypse Wolverine. That was wild with that crazy ass hair and all of that. And it would have been funny if they really dug into it because this Wolverine actually does get with Jean. And don't they have kids together? I believe so. But yeah, it was insane looking at him and he kicked Deadpool's ass. So that was cool. Patch, another random Wolverine. Not sure why they went with that, but he's in here. Seeing the Wolverine that debuted fighting against Hulk was really cool, especially when they get the shot of Hulk's face in the reflection of Wolverine's claws. Now you're gonna have people clamoring for that, and I do believe we're gonna get that in Secret Wars too. Like I think this was a precursor to their inevitable fight. I just hope it's not that scientific dumbass punk ass Hulk that we've been getting. Like we need Savage Hulk back for that fight. Which reminds me, that goes back to my Captain America video. Please, Marvel, bring back Savage Hulk if you're gonna have Red Hulk and a possible Wolverine and Hulk fight. Like, I'd appreciate that. Don't give me that dumbass Mark Ruffalo shit. We also have the Henry Cavill Wolverine in here. And that's funny because Deadpool takes a look at him and he says, "Wow, you look good. We treat you much better than the other guys, so to speak." And I don't think that was a shot at Zack Snyder. I think that was more so a shot at the studios, but that was pretty funny. My favorite Wolverine cameo, though, is comic book accurate Wolverine. This is to shut up everyone who's always talking about how Hugh Jackman isn't short enough to be Wolverine. That shit does not look good on video. It does not. Leave that shit alone. He looks foolish as hell. They called him Short King Wolverine. He does not look intimidating. It doesn't look intimidating on the X-Men 97 when they kind of scale him and he's in the elevator with the rest of the X-Men and you really get a sense of how short he is, and it damn sure doesn't look good live action. Hugh Jackman was the right man for the job because my God, if we would have got comic book accurate Wolverine on screen, he would have been a joke. All of this would have been for nothing. And the other cameos round out with the OG Sabretooth and Toad from the first X-Men movie, Pyro, Juggernaut, Lady Deathstrike, Ant-Man. I think I saw Psylocke and Calypso. Um, and Ant-Man is not like a full-on cameo. It's more of his dead carcass. They have a video of Captain America, Steve Rogers, a video, which is a really funny spot, of Thor holding Deadpool, and Deadpool kept asking like, "What does that mean?" Like Thor is holding me and he's crying, and they repurposed some of the footage for Thor: The Dark World for this, but that was hilarious. And we have a picture of Tony Stark in here. And so yeah, those are all the cameos. One I thought was gonna happen. I thought Loki, since he's like the god of time now, was gonna show up and kind of interfere in the resolution, but that didn't happen. And it kind of gets me to the credits. The first few credits that occur, it kind of looks like a goodbye to Fox. You get some background or like behind the scenes stuff. And one part was about like Hugh Jackman saying when he first was on set, he really didn't get to film for like 3 weeks, and he was just nervous about being in the role. And I remember around that time when they cast him, there were some doubts about him being able to pull off. He's a relative newcomer. Him being able to pull off Wolverine seemed like a long shot, and now he's like the longest tenured hero, or I guess the hero with the most films. And I think that's really cool, and it was powerful the way they used all that old footage, even footage from Wolverine Origins. And it kind of leads me to where I'm going to close with this whole thing. I believe that some people are born to play certain roles. Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, and Wesley Snipes were all born to play Deadpool, Wolverine, and Blade, respectively. It's hard to imagine other people in those roles. Will there come a time where, these actors have to kind of pass the torch? Of course. But until then, I'm okay with these older guys all kind of occupying these roles and really giving the fans what it is that they want. Uh, and to continue with that, there are some jokes about Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine until he's 90. And I think that's pretty funny, but it may be something to it. It kind of looks like Marvel is going to bring in those OG X-Men because, if I'm not mistaken, I think Kelsey Grammer reprised his role as Beast in the Marvels. And of course, we've already seen Patrick Stewart, and it looks like we're going to get those Fox OG X-Men at least one more time before Marvel Studios commits to a full recast of everyone. And I think that's pretty interesting. And again, right now, I think Wesley Snipes is going to be Blade until they get their shit together and fully commit to the new Blade movie. And if Mahershala still wants the job, I guess he'll come back and do it at that point. But for right now, I just want to give flowers to Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, and Wesley Snipes for just holding it down, man. So, Deadpool and Wolverine, have you seen it? If you have, let me know what you thought in the comments. Continue to like, continue to share. I appreciate the support and everything you guys have done, and I'm just looking forward to continuing to grow. Till next time, I'm Jarius, the Unapologetic Geek, and I am out.